At exactly 2 in the morning, the stranger walked into the convenience store and spoke Maya Collins's name before she had ever given it to him. "Maya," he said quietly, setting a black coffee on the counter. "You should not be here tonight." Outside, rain painted the Shinjuku streets in rivers of pink, blue, and electric red. Towering advertisements flickered across wet glass. Taxis slipped through the intersection like shadows. The city was still awake, but the store had entered that strange hour when even Tokyo seemed to breathe more slowly. Maya stared at the man across from her. He had come in every night for 17 days. Always at 2. Always wearing a dark coat cut too perfectly to be ordinary. Always buying the same black coffee, though he rarely drank more than a few sips. He would sit beside the window until Maya's shift ended at 5, watching the street with the stillness of someone who expected danger to arrive before dawn. He was tall, broad-shouldered, perhaps 35. His dark hair was pushed back from a face that might have been handsome if it had not been so controlled. There was no warmth in his expression, but there was a tension, an unsettling, absolute attention, that made Maya feel as though he noticed every breath she took. She had tried to ignore him. She had told herself he was a businessman with insomnia, a diplomat, a private security executive, maybe an actor avoiding recognition. But ordinary men did not make drunk customers lower their voices simply by looking at them. Ordinary men did not have black sedans waiting across the street every night. And ordinary men did not know her name. Maya kept one hand beneath the counter, close to the silent alarm. "I never told you my name." His eyes moved to her hidden hand. "No," he said. "You didn't." "Then how do you know it?" He looked past her toward the employee hallway. The refrigerator motors stopped. Every light in the store died at once. For half a second, there was nothing but darkness and the sound of rain striking the windows. Then the red emergency light above the exit blinked on. Maya heard a car door slam outside. The stranger moved before she could. He came around the counter, one arm sweeping her away from the front windows just as the glass exploded inward. Maya gasped as he pulled her down behind the register. Shelves shook. Bottles shattered. The glowing sign above the hot food display burst into sparks. The stranger covered her with his body. He did not curse. He did not panic. He simply turned his head toward the entrance with an expression so calm that it frightened her more than the shattered glass. 2 figures appeared beyond the rain-streaked doorway. The man reached beneath his coat. Maya grabbed his wrist. "No." His gaze dropped to her hand. Even in the red emergency light, she saw something flash through his eyes, surprise, perhaps, that anyone would dare stop him. "If you stand up," she whispered, "they'll see you. They already know where I am." "Then why are you hiding behind my counter?" "I'm not hiding." His arm tightened around her as another impact struck the metal shelving behind them. "I'm keeping you alive." A crash sounded from the employee hallway. Someone had entered through the rear door. The stranger's expression changed. It was not fear. It was decision. He pulled Maya to her feet and guided her toward the stockroom, placing himself between her and the front of the store. "Stay behind me. I don't even know who you are." "You will." "That is not reassuring." "It wasn't meant to be." The stockroom door opened before they reached it. A man in a dark suit stepped through. Maya recoiled. But the stranger did not. He said something sharp in Italian, and the newcomer immediately lowered his head. "The alley is clear," the man said in English. "For now." Maya looked from one man to the other. "For now?" The stranger took her coat from the hook beside the office and placed it over her shoulders. His fingers brushed the back of her neck. The touch lasted less than a second. But it sent a startling current through her body, not because it was intimate, but because he immediately pulled away, as though touching her required more control than confronting the men outside. "You're leaving with me," he said. Maya backed away. "No." His jaw tightened. "This building is no longer safe." "And you are?" "No." The honesty silenced her. He stepped closer, filling the narrow stockroom with the weight of his presence. "But tonight," he continued, "I am the safest choice you have." A heavy sound struck the rear door. The hinges groaned. The suited man reached beneath his jacket and glanced toward the stranger for permission. The stranger gave a single nod. Maya's pulse hammered. "Who are those people?" "They came because of me." "Then take yourself somewhere else." "They came for you." Her anger disappeared. "What?" The rear door shook again. The stranger placed his hand at the center of her back and guided her toward the fire exit. Maya resisted. "Why would anyone come for me?" "Because someone believes you have information. I sell rice balls and cigarettes." "You do more than that." His eyes held hers. The rear door cracked. Maya. There was something beneath the command now. Not softness. Urgency. Fear, but not for himself. Come with me. The alley behind the store was flooded with rain and red light. 4 black vehicles waited with their engines running. Men in dark suits formed a line between Maya and the street. The moment the stranger emerged, every one of them straightened. One opened the rear door of the largest SUV. Maya stopped beneath the awning. Across the alley, a man stood beside a motorcycle, holding a phone toward them. The stranger moved in front of Maya, blocking her from the camera. "Remove him," he said. His voice was low, almost conversational. 2 men crossed the alley immediately. The stranger took Maya's hand. She stared down at their joined fingers. He seemed to realize what he had done at the same moment she did. His grip loosened, but he did not let go. "Who are you?" she asked. Rain traced the hard angles of his face. A siren sounded somewhere beyond the alley. Renzo Santoro. The name struck her with the force of another explosion. Even Maya, who avoided gossip and stayed far from Tokyo's elite nightlife, knew the Santoro name. Santoro Holdings owned hotels, shipping companies, private security firms, restaurants, and half the redevelopment projects along Tokyo Bay. But people whispered about the other empire, the one beneath the polished towers, the one that did not appear on financial reports. Renzo Santoro was not simply rich. He was the man other dangerous men asked permission to fear. Maya pulled her hand free. "You're a mafia boss." Renzo looked at her without blinking. "Yes." Another crash came from inside the store. He opened the vehicle door. "And if you remain here, you will not survive long enough to hate me for it." Maya got into the SUV, not because she trusted him, because for the first time since the lights went out, Renzo Santoro looked frightened, and all of that fear was directed at her. The vehicles moved through Tokyo in a tight formation. Maya sat beside Renzo in the back seat of the center SUV. Rain slid across the tinted windows, turning the city into liquid color. A gray-haired man drove. Another sat in the passenger seat, speaking quietly into an earpiece. No one looked directly at Renzo. No one asked what had happened. That frightened Maya, too. Renzo removed his wet coat and placed it beside him. Beneath it, he wore a charcoal suit with no tie. He looked less like a criminal than the CEO he appeared to be in magazines. Except CEOs did not have men checking rooftops as their convoy moved through the city. Maya kept her hands clenched in her lap. "My phone is in my locker. It has already been recovered." She turned toward him. "You sent someone back inside?" "I had someone inside before the power failed." Her stomach tightened. "Watching me? Watching the men watching you. That is not better." "No," he said. "It isn't." The calmness of his answers infuriated her. "Take me to the police. The officer assigned to your district was paid to report your movements." "My apartment. Compromised. My friend Daniel lives near Nakano. I can stay with him." At the mention of Daniel, Renzo's eyes sharpened. It was a small reaction, but Maya saw it. "How do you know Daniel?" she asked. "I know everyone in your life who could be used against you." A cold silence filled the car. Maya looked at him carefully. "How long have you been watching me?" Renzo did not answer. "How long?" "Long enough to know you take the Chuo line when it rains because the Marunouchi platform makes you feel trapped." Her breath caught. He continued before she could speak. "You buy melon bread after difficult shifts but rarely eat it. You call your mother every Sunday at 9 in the morning, even when she doesn't answer. You leave water behind the store for the orange cat that pretends not to like you." Maya stared at him. The city lights passed over his face. "You prefer the seat at the end of the train because no one can stand behind you," he said. "You don't like lilies because they remind you of hospitals. You keep a paperback beneath the register, but you read the same page every night because you are listening to the people around you instead." "Stop!" Renzo became still. Maya pressed herself closer to the door. "That isn't protection," she said. "That is obsession." Something dark moved through his expression. "I know." The simple admission was worse than denial. "Why?" His gaze turned toward the window. For the first time, Maya saw hesitation in him. Then the driver spoke. "We are being followed." The passenger looked at a screen mounted beneath the dashboard. Silver sedan, 3 vehicles back. Renzo's hesitation vanished. Route C. The convoy split at the next intersection. Maya's vehicle accelerated through the rain while 2 SUVs turned in opposite directions. The silver sedan followed them. Renzo reached for Maya's seatbelt and pulled it tighter. His hand hovered near her waist. He stopped himself before touching her. "Keep your head down." "I am not a child." "No," he said, looking at her. "You are the only person in this car whose death would make me incapable of reason." The words settled between them. Maya forgot the questions she had been about to ask. The SUV turned sharply into an underground entrance beneath a luxury hotel. The steel gate began closing behind them. The silver sedan accelerated toward the narrowing gap. A black vehicle came from the side and struck it before it could enter. Metal screamed. Maya flinched. Renzo did not look back. The gate closed. Silence returned. "You've known me for 17 days, Maya said. His eyes remained on her. "I have known your face for 17 days. Her mouth went dry. "But your voice," he continued. "I have known for 512 nights." Renzo's penthouse occupied the top floors of a tower overlooking Tokyo Bay. Maya had never seen a home so beautiful or so lonely. Glass walls framed the city from every direction. Dark stone floors reflected low amber lights. The furniture was expensive, but almost untouched. There were no family photographs, no casual objects, no sign that anyone truly lived there. The place looked less like a home than a waiting room built for a king who never rested. Men secured the elevators behind them. A woman in a navy suit approached Renzo and bowed slightly. "Mr. Santoro, the lower floors are clear. We are checking the eastern tower." Renzo nodded toward Maya. "Get her dry clothes. Something comfortable. No one enters the guest wing without her permission." The woman's eyes flicked briefly to Maya before returning to Renzo. "Yes, sir." Maya crossed her arms. "I'm standing right here." Renzo faced her. "You may ask Emmy for anything you require. I require an explanation. You will have one. When? When I know you are safe. You brought me to the home of a criminal surrounded by armed men." His voice dropped. "My men will die before they allow anyone to enter this room." "That is not the comforting sentence you think it is." A nearly invisible line appeared between his brows. For a second, Maya wondered whether Renzo Santoro had ever attempted to comfort anyone. Probably not. He gestured toward the guest wing. "There is a room prepared." "Prepared?" The word stopped him. Maya saw his mistake register. She walked past him before he could respond. The guest bedroom was larger than her entire apartment. On the bed lay clothes in her size. Not generic clothes. A soft black sweater, similar to the one she had almost purchased 2 weeks earlier. Dark jeans from the brand she wore. A cream robe. New shoes exactly one size larger than the pair. Still sitting in her locker. Maya turned slowly. A bottle of the citrus moisturizer she used stood beside the sink. Her favorite tea waited on a tray. Renzo remained in the doorway. She looked at him. "You had this room prepared before tonight." He said nothing. "You knew something was going to happen." "I knew it was possible. And instead of warning me, you watched me walk into that store every night?" "I needed to know who was observing you." "You used me as bait." "No." His answer came hard enough to crack the air. Maya stepped toward him. "That store was attacked because of you. It was attacked because someone discovered what you were broadcasting." "I'm not broadcasting anything." Renzo's gaze locked on hers. "At midnight," he said, 3 nights a week, you host an anonymous program called The Quiet Hour. Maya froze. No one at the store knew. Her mother knew she recorded audio essays. But even she had never heard the show. Daniel helped with the technical side. Yet he knew Maya only by her host name. To listeners, she was simply M. The show had begun 2 years earlier with a cheap microphone in her apartment. Maya had wanted to create a space for people awake during the loneliest hours: nurses finishing shifts, drivers crossing empty highways, grieving spouses lying beside cold pillows, immigrants missing homes that no longer felt like home. Listeners sent anonymous letters. Maya read some of them on the air. She answered with stories, music, and quiet conversations about survival. The audience was small but loyal. "How do you know that?" she asked. Renzo's expression changed. Only slightly. But something in him opened, and then immediately closed. "Because I listen." Maya remembered what he had said in the car. 512 nights. "You tracked me through the show?" "I heard something in one of the letters you read." "What?" "A phrase my sister used when we were children." Maya waited. Renzo stepped into the room but maintained a deliberate distance. "My younger sister, Elena, disappeared 18 months ago. Her vehicle was found near Yokohama Harbor. There was blood inside, but no body." His voice remained controlled, but Maya saw the pressure beneath every word. "The police believed she had been killed. My enemies claimed responsibility. I did not believe them. And then you heard something on my program. A listener wrote that the moon was only a door painted on a dark wall." Maya remembered the letter. It had come from a woman calling herself E. She had written about captivity without using the word, about living in a room without windows, about counting footsteps outside a locked door. Maya had assumed it was metaphorical. Renzo continued. Elena used to say that sentence when our father locked us inside the wine cellar as children. A chill ran over Maya's skin. What are you saying? The letters sent to your program contain information. Why didn't you go to the police? Renzo looked at her as though the answer was obvious. Because the people holding my sister own police officers. Maya thought of the district officer Renzo claimed had reported her movements. She looked toward the rain-streaked windows. All this time someone may have been asking for help. Yes. And you never told me. If I had approached you too early, they would have stopped sending the letters. So you watched me instead. I protected you. You memorized my train routes. Yes. You entered my apartment? No. Do you have cameras there? No. She searched his face. Renzo did not look away. Maya believed him. She hated that she believed him. How did you know what clothes to buy? Receipts. Security footage. Observation. That is still surveillance. Yes. You don't get to call something protection just because you were afraid. The words struck him. Maya saw it. Renzo looked toward the clothes on the bed, then back at her. I have never claimed to be a good man. That does not excuse being a controlling one. No. Again, no defense. No manipulation. Just acceptance. It made her anger more difficult to hold. Renzo reached into his pocket and placed a phone on the dresser. Your mother has been moved to a secure hotel. She believes there was a gas leak in her building. Daniel Park is being watched but has not been approached. Maya's pulse quickened. You moved my mother? I moved everyone they could use to reach you. Without asking me. There was no time. You always have a reason. Yes. And you think that makes every decision yours. His eyes darkened. No. I think it makes every consequence mine. He turned toward the door. Maya looked at the phone. Renzo. He stopped. Why did you come to the store yourself? His back remained toward her. You could have sent any of your men. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he looked over his shoulder. Because hearing your voice through a speaker was no longer enough to convince me you were alive. He left before she could answer. Maya tried to sleep. She failed. At 4 a.m, she found Renzo standing alone in the dark living room. Tokyo glittered below him. He had removed his jacket and rolled his sleeves to his forearms. A glass of whiskey sat untouched on the table. On a screen beside him, security images showed the convenience store surrounded by police. One photograph showed Renzo shielding Maya behind the counter. Another showed them entering the black SUV together. The images were already online. Maya approached quietly. You're going to be famous by breakfast, she said. I already am. You know what I mean. Renzo turned off the screen. Maya looked at the whiskey. You don't drink? Not when you are in danger. Is that often? Since I found you? His mouth tightened. Constantly. She should have been disturbed by the answer. Part of her was. Another part noticed the exhaustion beneath his eyes. Do you ever sleep? Sometimes. During my show? Renzo's gaze shifted away. That was answer enough. Maya moved closer to the glass wall. The city below looked peaceful from that height. All the violence of the night had become tiny headlights moving through rain. Why my voice? Renzo stood beside her, leaving a careful space between them. You never tell people they will be fine. Maya looked at him. Most people say that because silence makes them uncomfortable, he continued. You let the silence remain. You tell them some nights will hurt, and that surviving them is still enough. His voice had lowered. You once said grief is love with nowhere to go. Maya remembered the broadcast. It had been the anniversary of her father's death. You said we should give it somewhere to sit until morning, Renzo said. So I did. His reflection in the window looked less like a mafia boss, and more like a man who had spent years standing alone in rooms too large for him. Where did you let it sit? Maya asked. His eyes met hers in the glass. With you. The air between them changed. Maya became aware of his hand resting on the ledge beside hers. Barely an inch separated their fingers. Renzo looked down. His hand moved, almost touching hers. Then he pulled it away. A door opened behind them. Emmy entered with a tablet. Renzo's face closed instantly. We traced the vehicle from the store, she said. It belongs to a Kuroda Holdings subsidiary. Renzo became completely still. Maya knew the Kuroda name. Takeshi Kuroda was one of Tokyo's most respected business leaders. He appeared at charity galas, funded hospitals, and spoke publicly about rebuilding communities after disasters. Photographs often showed him standing beside Renzo at corporate events. He is your partner, Maya said. Renzo took the tablet. He is more than that. Emmy lowered her voice. He was your father's partner. Renzo's eyes moved across the information. He raised me after my father died. Maya watched the last trace of vulnerability disappear from his face. What does that mean? She asked. It means, Renzo said, the man I trusted with my sister's life may be the man who took her. They left the penthouse before sunrise. Renzo moved Maya to a hidden safe house beneath an abandoned Catholic church in Yokohama. The old building stood between modern warehouses near the harbor, its stone walls darkened by rain and age. Candles burned beneath a statue near the altar. The contrast was unsettling sacred silence above, armed guards below. The safe house had once been used by missionaries. Its narrow rooms were lined with old books, emergency supplies, surveillance equipment, and maps of Tokyo Bay. Maya watched Renzo's men turn the forgotten chapel into a command center. No one questioned him. No one challenged his orders. But when Renzo spoke to Maya, his voice changed, not softer, exactly, but more controlled, as if every word had to pass through a different part of him. He gave her a laptop containing copies of the letters sent to the quiet hour. You expect me to decode these? You understand the emotional patterns better than my analysts. They're people, Renzo, not patterns. I know. Do you? His eyes held hers. I know because I have spent 512 nights listening to you treat strangers with more dignity than most men show their families. Maya looked away first. They worked at an old wooden table beneath the church. Most letters were ordinary. A widower in California who still set the table for two. A nurse in Osaka, terrified of going home to an empty apartment. A truck driver in Texas who called every week just to hear another human voice say his name. But the letters from E were different. They contained repeated images. Painted doors, silent bells, winter roses, trains that never reached stations. Renzo stood behind Maya, one hand braced on the table as he read over her shoulder. His body was close enough that she felt the heat of him. Here, Maya said, pointing to one line. She mentions hearing bells every 6 hours. There are dozens of temples and churches near the harbor. She says the bells sound beneath her, not above. Renzo leaned closer. His chest almost touched her shoulder. Maya became painfully aware of his breathing. She may be underground, he said, or above a bell mechanism. Renzo's hand shifted beside hers. Their fingers brushed. Neither moved. The contact was small, accidental, yet it seemed to narrow the entire church around them. Maya turned her head. Renzo was closer than she expected. His eyes dropped briefly to her mouth. Then footsteps sounded on the stairs. Renzo stepped away so quickly that the chair scraped against the floor. A guard entered. Mr. Santoro, Mr. Kuroda is calling. Renzo's face hardened. Put him through. Takeshi Kuroda appeared on the largest screen. He was in his 60s, silver-haired and elegant, wearing a dark traditional jacket. He looked like a statesman, rather than a criminal architect. Renzo, he said warmly, I have been trying to reach you. You found me. Kuroda smiled. I always do. His gaze moved toward Maya. So this is the voice. Maya felt Renzo shift in front of her. Not enough to appear dramatic. Just enough to block Kuroda's view. You attacked a civilian, Renzo said. I prevented a mistake from becoming a catastrophe. What mistake? The girl has been receiving communications meant for dangerous people. She has a name. Kuroda's eyes gleamed with mild amusement. Yes, you seem very fond of saying it. Renzo's silence became threatening. Kuroda leaned back. You should bring Miss Collins to the Imperial Crest Hotel tonight. We can resolve this privately. You mean where your men can finish what they started? If I wanted her dead, she would not have left the store. Maya saw Renzo's hand curl at his side. Kuroda continued. There is a charity gala this evening. Cameras, diplomats, business leaders, a very public place. Surely even you can behave for one night. Why should I come? Because I know where Elena is. The room changed. Renzo did not move. But Maya felt the violence gathering beneath his stillness. Kuroda smiled sadly. You have searched for 18 months, my boy. Come hear the truth. The screen went dark. Renzo stared at it. Renzo, Maya said. He walked away. She followed him through the narrow corridor beneath the church. He stopped in a stone room, lit by a single lamp. You are not attending that gala, he said. You need me to identify the messages. I needed you, past tense. You think you can lock me underground while you walk into a trap? Yes. Maya folded her arms. No. His eyes flashed. This is not a negotiation. That sentence may work on everyone else. It will work on you tonight. Because you're afraid? His jaw tightened. Because I am responsible for you. I am not one of your companies. No. I am not your employee. No. And I am certainly not yours. Renzo stepped closer. You think I don't know that? His composure finally cracked. The force of his emotion filled the small room. I know exactly what you are not, Maya. Every hour of every day I know. She held her ground, though her heart was pounding. Then stop making decisions as though my life belongs to you. His voice dropped. If you walk into that hotel, Kuroda will use you to control me. That sounds like your weakness, not mine. The words landed between them. Renzo stared at her. Maya immediately regretted the cruelty, but she did not take it back. What happens when someone threatens me? She asked. Do you surrender every time? Burn every building? Kill every man? Is that your idea of love? His expression changed at the final word. Neither of them had used it before. Maya's breath caught. Renzo stepped closer until barely any space remained between them. I don't know what my idea of love is, he said quietly. I know only that the possibility of losing you has made me understand every violent thing I once condemned in other men. His hand lifted. For one suspended moment, Maya thought he would touch her face. His fingers stopped beside her cheek. He looked almost furious with himself. Then he lowered his hand. That is why you cannot come. He turned away. Maya spoke before he reached the door. E wrote something else. Renzo stopped. Maya had noticed it earlier but had not understood it until Kuroda appeared. In 3 letters, she mentioned a man who taught her to pray. Renzo slowly faced her. The final letter says, "The man who taught us to pray is the one who buried me." All color left his face. Kuroda had raised Renzo and Elena after their father's death. Kuroda had taken them to church. Kuroda had taught them to pray. Maya moved closer. You cannot face him alone. Renzo looked at her for a long time. Then he said, If you attend, you remain beside me. All done. Who? I decide when I leave. You remain where I can see you. I decide who I speak to. You do not drink anything I have not tasted. That is strangely specific. Kuroda has poisoned senators. Maya paused. Fine. You wear the security transmitter. Fine. If I tell you to run, I will decide whether running is the intelligent choice. A muscle moved in his jaw. That is not an agreement. It is the only one you are getting. For the first time, something almost like admiration entered Renzo's expression. You enjoy defying dangerous men. No, Maya said. I enjoy reminding them they're still men. The Imperial Crest Hotel rose above central Tokyo like a palace made of glass. That evening, black cars lined the entrance beneath a steady silver rain. Politicians, celebrities, corporate leaders, and diplomats walked beneath a canopy of umbrellas, while cameras flashed. Maya wore a deep green gown Emmy had arranged for her. The dress did not hide her body. It honored it. The fabric followed her curves with elegant confidence, falling from her shoulders in soft lines. Her dark hair framed her face, and a simple gold necklace rested at her throat. When she entered the hotel suite where Renzo waited, he forgot to speak. He wore a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. 2 men stood behind him discussing security, but their voices faded when Maya appeared. Renzo's gaze moved slowly over her. Not judging, not comparing. Seeing. The intensity of it made her skin warm. Emmy handed Maya a small transmitter disguised as a bracelet. Renzo still had not spoken. Maya raised an eyebrow. Do mafia bosses lose the ability to form sentences around green fabric? The guards looked carefully at the floor. Renzo approached. His eyes remained on hers. You look. He stopped. Maya waited. His hand lifted toward the necklace, but he caught himself before touching it. Dangerous, he finished. That is your compliment? It is the highest one I know. He offered his arm. Maya looked down at it. This is for appearances? No. For protection? No. Then why? Renzo's voice lowered. Because if I place my hand on your back, I may forget there are cameras. Maya's pulse stumbled. She took his arm. The ballroom fell quiet when they entered. Maya felt the change move through the room like wind across water. People recognized Renzo first. Then they saw her. Some whispered. Some stared openly at her body, her simple background, the fact that Renzo Santoro had brought a convenience store cashier into one of Tokyo's most exclusive rooms. Renzo noticed every look. His arm tightened beneath Maya's hand. Don't, she murmured. I have not done anything. You're imagining several crimes. Only several? She almost smiled. At the center of the ballroom stood Takashi Kuroda. Beside him was his daughter, Aiko, a poised woman in a silver gown. She was beautiful, polished, and perfectly at home among powerful people. Maya recognized her from business magazines. Rumors had linked Aiko and Renzo for years. Aiko's expression remained gracious as they approached, but her eyes lingered on Maya. Renzo, Kuroda said, "You came. You mentioned my sister." Kuroda glanced toward nearby cameras. Always direct. Aiko stepped forward. "We were told you might attend alone." Renzo said nothing. Aiko looked at Maya. "And you are?" "Maya Collins." "I know." The answer carried a subtle edge. Aiko's smile widened. "Your photograph has been everywhere today. It must be overwhelming to go from a convenience store counter to this room in less than 24 hours. Maya metargaze. Both places are filled with people buying things they don't need." A nearby diplomat coughed to hide a laugh. Aiko's smile tightened. Renzo looked at Maya with unmistakable satisfaction. Kuroda gestured toward a private balcony. "We should speak." They moved through the ballroom. As Maya passed a group of executives, she heard one whisper, "Santoro brought the cashier?" Another replied, "Maybe she is temporary entertainment." Renzo stopped. The entire group froze. Maya tightened her hand on his arm. "Keep walking." His eyes remained on the men. "Renzo." Slowly, he looked at her. "They are not worth it," she said. "They spoke about you. They wanted a reaction. They will have one." Maya stepped in front of him. "You do not defend my dignity by proving they can control you." For several seconds, Renzo stared down at her. Then he continued walking. The executives exhaled. On the balcony, rain streaked the glass while the ballroom glowed behind them. Kuroda poured tea. Renzo did not touch it. "Where's Elena?" he asked. Kuroda placed a small music box on the table. Renzo's face changed. Maya had never seen the object before, but she understood instantly. It belonged to his sister. "She is alive," Kuroda said. Renzo's voice became nearly inaudible. "Where?" "She was injured after discovering information she did not understand." "You took her." "I protected her from the consequences of her curiosity." Renzo moved so quickly that the guards at the balcony doors reached for their weapons. Maya caught his hand. His fingers closed around hers with crushing force, then immediately loosened. Kuroda remained calm. "Elena uncovered accounts linking Santoro shipping routes to intelligence operations," he said. "If that information becomes public, governments will fall. Families will go to war. You used my companies. I expanded your empire. You buried my sister. I kept her alive." "Where?" Kuroda looked at Maya. "The girl knows." Maya's stomach tightened. "I don't. You have been reading Elena's directions to thousands of listeners. I didn't know they were directions. Intent is rarely important." Renzo stepped between them. "You speak to me." Kuroda smiled. "There it is, the weakness I warned your father about." Renzo's expression went blank. Kuroda continued, "A man like you may survive enemies, betrayal, even grief. But the moment he begins needing one person, his empire becomes a leash anyone can hold." Maya felt Renzo's hand tighten around hers. Aiko entered the balcony. "The press is waiting," she told her father. Kuroda nodded. Tonight was meant to announce the formal alliance between Kuroda Holdings and the Santoro Group. Maya looked at Renzo. He did not look surprised. Aiko smiled at Maya. "Renzo and I were expected to announce our engagement." The words struck deeper than Maya wanted them to. She withdrew her hand. Renzo turned toward her. "There was never an agreement." "Your board believes otherwise," Aiko said. Kuroda gestured toward the ballroom. "Stand beside my daughter tonight, Renzo. Restore order. Miss Collins will be allowed to return to her life." "Renzo, restore order." Renzo's face became unreadable. "And Elena? You will see her after the announcement." Maya looked at him. She hated that part of her expected hesitation. This was his sister, his empire. A woman born into his world stood beside him, offering a solution that made political sense. Maya was a cashier he had known by face for 17 days. Renzo stepped toward the ballroom doors. Something inside Maya folded quietly. Then he stopped beside a waiter carrying a tray of champagne. Renzo took one glass. Kuroda smiled. Renzo turned toward the room filled with cameras and raised the glass. The crowd fell silent. "Takeshi Kuroda believes tonight will mark an alliance between our families," he said. Aiko joined him, poised for the announcement. Renzo looked across the ballroom at Maya. "It will not." Kuroda's expression hardened. Renzo placed the untouched glass back on the tray. "There will be no engagement. There will be no merger. Effective immediately. Every Santoro company is withdrawing from Kuroda. Controlled operations. Shock rippled through the room. Renzo walked back to Maya. He stopped before her, in front of everyone who had whispered, stared, or laughed. Then he held out his hand, not taking hers. Asking, Maya looked at him. Renzo Santoro, a man who commanded cities with a glance, waited in complete silence for her decision. She placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers. Kuroda's face went cold. You would destroy 30 years of work for her? Renzo did not look away from Maya. No. His thumb moved once across her knuckles. I would destroy it because any empire requiring me to surrender her deserves to burn. The ballroom erupted with voices. Cameras flashed. Renzo led Maya toward the exit. Aiko stepped into their path. You think he chose you? She said to Maya. Ask him why he first came to your store. Maya stopped. Renzo's hand tightened. Aiko's eyes glittered. He believed you were helping Elena. He did not fall in love with your voice first. He investigated it. Maya looked at Renzo. He said nothing. The silence answered for him. Aiko continued. You were evidence before you became an obsession. The ballroom seemed to disappear. Maya pulled her hand away. Is that true? Renzo's face held no defense. Yes. The word cut through her. How long before you cared whether I survived? From the first night I saw you. But you listened for months before that. Yes. You tracked the show because of Elena. Yes. And all the things you said about my voice, about surviving the night, were those true? His eyes changed. Every word. But they came after you decided I was useful. Renzo stepped closer. Maya. She moved back. Don't. Kuroda watched them with quiet satisfaction. Then every light in the ballroom went out. Guests screamed. Red emergency lights flashed on. Maya felt a hand close around her arm. She assumed it was Renzo. Then a cloth covered her mouth. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was Renzo shouting her name with a terror that silenced the entire room. Maya woke beneath white fluorescent lights. She was sitting in a chair inside a glass-walled broadcast studio. Beyond the glass stretched a dark room filled with old transmission equipment, monitors, and tangled cables. Rain hammered the metal roof overhead. Her wrists were secured in front of her, but she was otherwise unharmed. A microphone stood on the desk. On the other side of the studio, a woman sat against the wall. She was thin, pale, and exhausted, with dark hair falling around a face that resembled Renzo's. Elena? The woman lifted her head. You're Maya. Her voice was weak but certain. Maya moved toward her as far as the restraints allowed. You sent the letters. Elena nodded. I found your show by accident. The first night I heard you, you were speaking about how people hide truth inside ordinary sentences, because saying it directly makes it too real. Maya remembered. So I hid mine, Elena continued. Where are we? Beneath an old broadcasting station near Yokohama Harbor. Kuroda owns the entire district. Maya looked at the equipment. Why bring me here? Because tonight he wants you to read one final message. A door opened. Takeshi Kuroda entered with 2 guards. He no longer looked like a charitable businessman. Without cameras, the warmth had vanished from his face. He placed several pages beside the microphone. You will broadcast at your regular time, he told Maya. You will tell your listeners that the letters from E were fictional submissions created for entertainment. No. Kuroda looked toward Elena. If you refuse, she dies. Maya forced herself not to show fear. If I do it, you kill both of us afterward. Perhaps. You're not very persuasive. I do not need to persuade you. I need only understand what you value. He turned on one of the monitors. Renzo appeared on the screen. He was standing inside the abandoned church. His white shirt marked with rain and blood near one shoulder. Men surrounded him, but he seemed unaware of them. He stared at a map on the table with the expression of a man barely containing destruction. Kuroda studied Maya. He has shut down roads, threatened ministers, and mobilized every Santoro operative in Japan. 3 men are dead. 2 Kuroda facilities are burning. Maya's throat tightened. He will find you, Kuroda continued. And when he does, I will make him choose between you and his sister. Elena closed her eyes. You already know who he will choose, Maya said. Do I? Yes. Kuroda smiled. Which one? Maya looked at Renzo on the screen. A day earlier, she would have said Elena. An hour earlier, after learning how Renzo had first found her, she might have said neither. Now she remembered the sound of him shouting her name as the lights went out. Not as a command, as a man watching the only light in his life disappear. He will choose the person he believes he has the best chance of saving, Maya said. And then he will hate himself. Forever. For the other. Kuroda's smile faded slightly. You understand him. I understand lonely people. You mistake loneliness for depth, and you mistake control for strength. His eyes hardened. Maya leaned toward the microphone. You raised him, didn't you? Yes. Then you should have known what would happen when you gave a grieving man power but never taught him how to love. Kuroda stepped closer. And you believe you taught him? No. Maya held his gaze. I reminded him he still could. The lights flickered. One of the guards touched his earpiece. Kuroda looked toward the door. A distant explosion shook dust from the ceiling. Renzo had arrived. Kuroda pulled Elena to her feet and dragged her toward a second room behind the studio. Maya stood. Where are you taking her? To give Renzo his choice. The door slammed behind them. Maya stared at the microphone. The broadcast computer was already connected to her program. The clock read 1:58 a.m. In 2 minutes, thousands of listeners would receive the notification that the Quiet Hour was live. Maya looked beneath the desk. The transmitter bracelet was still on her wrist. Kuroda had assumed it was jewelry. She twisted it until a small green light appeared. Then she leaned toward the microphone. At exactly 2 in the morning, Maya Collins went live. Good evening, she said, her voice trembling only once. This is M. And tonight, we are going to talk about the difference between being protected and being possessed. Across the building, alarms began to sound. Maya continued. Sometimes dangerous people tell us they are making choices for our safety. Sometimes they watch us, control us, or decide what we are allowed to know. They may even believe fear gives them the right. She heard footsteps outside the studio, but love without choice is only another locked room. The door handle moved. Maya read the location code Elena had hidden in the letters. The moon is a painted door. The silent bells are beneath the water. The winter rose grows under warehouse 17. She looked directly into the studio camera. And if you are listening, Renzo, I am still alive. The door burst open. A guard entered. Maya grabbed the microphone stand and swung it into the glass panel beside him. The glass cracked. The guard lunged toward her. Before he reached her, the lights died. Darkness swallowed the studio. A single emergency light came on in the corridor. A figure appeared behind the guard. Renzo moved with terrifying precision. There was a brief struggle, the sound of a body striking the floor, and then Renzo stood in the doorway. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. Rain and blood marked the side of his face. His breathing was controlled, but his eyes were not. When he saw Maya, everything in him stopped. She had never seen relief look so violent. He crossed the room. His hands rose toward her face, then froze inches away. Even now, even after tearing through Kuroda's men to reach her, he remembered what she had said about choice. Maya. Her name broke in his voice. She stepped into him. Renzo caught her with both arms. For one breath, he held her too tightly. Then his grip loosened, allowing her to pull away if she wanted. She did not. His face pressed into her hair. I thought he could not finish. Maya felt the tremor he tried to hide. The feared Mafia Boss of Tokyo shook while holding her. Elena is here, Maya whispered. Renzo lifted his head. Kuroda took her toward the lower level. An explosion sounded beneath them. Renzo reached for Maya's hand. We're leaving. Not without her. Maya, if you make the decision for me again, you will lose me, even if we both survive. His eyes closed briefly. The war inside him was visible. Then he opened them. Stay beside me. This time, it was not an order. Maya nodded. They descended through the transmission station as alarms screamed and red lights rotated across concrete walls. Renzo's men fought Kuroda's guards in the corridors. The violence was fast, chaotic, and sharp with the smell of smoke and rainwater pouring through broken windows. Renzo kept Maya behind him but never dragged her. At every turn, he looked back to ensure she was choosing to follow. They reached the lower broadcast chamber. Kuroda stood on a metal platform above a deep maintenance shaft. One hand held Elena. The other held a detonator. Below them, black water moved through old flood channels toward the harbor. You disappoint me, Kuroda told Renzo. Renzo stepped forward. Release her. Kuroda looked at Maya. And the cashier? She has nothing to do with this. Kuroda laughed. She has everything to do with this. You abandoned the alliance. You exposed our businesses. You burned your own warehouses to block my escape routes. Renzo's face remained cold. Warehouses can be rebuilt. Your father's empire cannot. It was never his empire. Renzo looked at Maya. It was a cage I inherited. Kuroda tightened his grip on Elena. You sound like her now. No, Renzo said. I finally sound like myself. Kuroda raised the detonator. The charges beneath this building will collapse the channel. You have time to save one woman. Elena looked at her brother. Renzo, don't. Maya understood Kuroda's design. He wanted Renzo to choose publicly. To live forever with the damage. Maya stepped away from Renzo. Kuroda's eyes followed her. What are you doing? Renzo asked. Trusting you. She moved toward the broadcast control panel beside the platform. Kuroda turned the detonator toward her. Renzo advanced. Kuroda shouted, Stop! Renzo stopped. Maya studied the controls. The station had been built to transmit emergency signals across the harbor. Several channels remained active. Maya pressed the button marked External Relay. The live feed from her studio appeared across every monitor in the chamber. Kuroda's confession had been recorded. His face changed. You foolish girl. Maya pressed another switch. The feed uploaded to the quiet hour. Thousands of listeners were hearing everything. Kuroda released Elena and moved toward Maya. Renzo crossed the platform. The next moments happened in fragments. Elena falling to her knees. Kuroda striking the detonator. Renzo reaching Maya. A blast beneath the building. Metal bending. Glass shattering outward into the rain. The platform collapsed on one side. Maya lost her footing. Renzo caught her wrist as she fell toward the flood channel. His body struck the edge of the platform. Pain flashed across his face. Below Maya, black water roared through the broken concrete. Kuroda was escaping toward the opposite corridor. Renzo saw him. For one terrible second, Maya understood the choice. Revenge was within reach. The man who had stolen Elena, betrayed his family, and poisoned his empire was only yards away. Renzo could release Maya, trust his men to reach her, and pursue Kuroda. Instead, he looked down at her. The hatred left his face. There was only fear. He pulled Maya upward with his injured arm. Kuroda disappeared into the smoke. Renzo dragged Maya onto the platform and covered her as another section of ceiling collapsed. You let him go, she gasped. Renzo held her face between his hands. I will let the whole world go. His forehead pressed against hers. But not you. Police sirens rose beyond the harbor. Not Kuroda's officers. Real police. Journalists had received the live broadcast. International agencies had downloaded Kuroda's confession. His private empire was becoming public evidence faster than he could erase it. Elena crawled toward them. Renzo released Maya only long enough to reach his sister. For the first time in 18 months, brother and sister held each other. Elena broke down against his chest. Renzo closed his eyes. Maya stood beside them beneath the broken roof as rain fell into the ruined station. Renzo looked up at her. He reached out one hand. Maya took it, not because she needed him to save her, because in the final moment, he had chosen to become a man worthy of being trusted. Kuroda was arrested 3 days later while attempting to leave Japan aboard a private cargo ship. The evidence Elena had collected exposed corrupt officials, business leaders, and members of several criminal organizations. Kuroda Holdings collapsed before the end of the week. The Santoro Empire survived. Renzo nearly did not. The injury to his shoulder was worse than he had admitted. Blood loss and exhaustion sent him into surgery shortly after they reached the hospital. Maya sat beside his bed through the night. Elena slept in the next room under federal protection. At 4 a.m, Renzo woke. The hospital was quiet. Tokyo's lights glowed beyond the window. He saw Maya in the chair beside him and went completely still. You stayed. His voice was rough. For the surgery. You could have left afterward. I know. He looked at her as though the choice mattered more than anything else she could have said. Maya moved closer. There are things we need to discuss. Renzo's expression became guarded. The surveillance end. Yes. You do not decide where I live. Yes. You do not move my mother without telling me. A pause. Yes. You do not buy my workplace. I already purchased the building. Maya stared at him. Renzo looked almost guilty. When? Yesterday. You were unconscious yesterday. Emmy completed the transaction. Renzo. The owner planned to terminate your employment because of the media attention. So you bought the building? I prevented an injustice. You bought a 12-story property to save one convenience store job. Yes. That is not normal. I have never pretended to be normal. Despite herself, Maya felt a laugh rise in her chest. She suppressed it. Renzo watched her carefully. I will transfer ownership of the store to you, he said. No conditions. I don't want a building. Then sell it. I don't want your guilt disguised as real estate. His expression tightened. That was not guilt. What was it? He looked toward their joined shadows on the wall. Panic. The honesty softened something inside her. Renzo continued. I do not know how to love without trying to remove every threat. I do not know how to care for something without building walls around it. I am not something. His gaze returned to hers. No. You are someone I nearly destroyed by being afraid to lose you. Maya sat on the edge of his bed. You found me because you needed information. Yes. You watched me because of Elena. Yes. And then? Renzo swallowed. Then I saw you leave food for a cat that scratched you every time you approached. Maya waited. I saw you defend a homeless man when your manager tried to remove him from the store. I saw you work an extra shift for a woman whose son was sick. I watched you stand beneath the train station awning for 20 minutes because an elderly stranger needed someone to listen. His eyes held hers. And I began arriving at 2 in the morning because watching you exist in the world made it feel less empty. Maya's breath caught. You should have spoken to me. I was afraid. You? Yes. The words seemed painful for him. I have faced guns without fear. I have ordered men to war. I have buried my father, my enemies, and nearly my sister. His voice lowered. But the thought of speaking to you and discovering that your kindness did not include me. He looked away. I preferred silence. Maya reached toward him. Her fingers touched the side of his face. Renzo stopped breathing. It was the first time she had touched him gently by choice. He did not move into her hand. He waited. Maya traced the bruise near his cheek. You cannot spend your life listening from outside the room. I know. You have to enter without taking control of it. I don't know how. You ask. Renzo looked at her. May I touch you? The question was almost a whisper. Maya nodded. His hand rose slowly to her face. The feared Mafia Boss touched her as though she were something powerful enough to break him. His thumb rested against her cheek. Maya leaned forward. Their first kiss was not violent. It was restrained, uncertain, and devastatingly tender. Renzo kissed her once and stopped, searching her face for permission. Maya kissed him again. This time, the control inside him fractured. His hand moved to the back of her neck, pulling her closer with a hunger he had denied for too long. Yet even in the intensity of it, he remained careful of her choice, her body, the slightest change in her breath. When they separated, Renzo rested his forehead against hers. What happens now? He asked. Maya looked at the city beyond the hospital window. Now you learn to wait. For how long? As long as I need. His eyes closed. Then I will wait. She believed him. 4 months later, the convenience store reopened. Maya kept the original counter, the old window seat, and even the scratched tile where Renzo had first pulled her away from danger. But the floor above the store had changed. It became the new studio for the quiet hour. The audience had grown from several thousand listeners to millions after the live broadcast exposed Kuroda. Maya refused every television offer that tried to turn her into a spectacle. She continued speaking to the lonely, the grieving, and the people awake when the rest of the world seemed to have forgotten them. Elena sometimes joined her. Her voice was still fragile, but it grew stronger each week. Renzo dismantled the criminal divisions of Santoro Holdings piece by piece. It cost him allies, territory, and nearly half his fortune. He did not complain. He sold the luxury penthouse and moved into a smaller apartment where the rooms did not echo. He attended therapy twice a week, though he threatened the first therapist and frightened the second into early retirement. The third refused to be intimidated. Maya liked her immediately. Renzo no longer tracked Maya's phone. He no longer placed guards inside her workplace. 2 remained across the street, but only because Maya had agreed to them after receiving several threats connected to Kuroda's trial. Renzo asked before every security change. He hated asking. He did it anyway. On a rainy Thursday night, Maya finished her broadcast shortly before 2 in the morning. She descended the narrow stairs into the convenience store. The city glowed beyond the windows. The orange cat slept beside the door. At exactly 2, the bell above the entrance chimed. Renzo walked inside. He wore a dark coat, though the rain had already dampened his hair. He went to the refrigerator, selected a black coffee, and placed it on the counter. Maya looked at him. You know we sell better coffee upstairs now. I like this one. You hate this one. Yes. Then why do you keep buying it? Tradition. She scanned the cup. Renzo remained on the other side of the counter. 4 months earlier, he would have walked around it without permission. Now he waited. Maya rested her hands on the counter. You should not be here tonight. His eyes warmed with recognition. That is what I told you. And then the building exploded. The glass broke. Your memory is selective. I was distracted. By what? You. Rain moved down the windows behind him. Black cars waited across the street, less threatening now, almost part of the scenery. Renzo looked toward the familiar window seat. May I stay until your shift ends? Maya studied him. He was still feared. Still dangerous. Still capable of turning cold enough to silence a room. But he had learned that devotion was not proven by controlling every door. Sometimes it was proven by standing outside one and waiting to be invited in. Maya stepped from behind the counter. She approached him slowly. Renzo's eyes followed her with the same intense attention he had shown from the beginning. But now there was no hidden surveillance between them. No secret motive. No locked room. Only choice. She took his coffee and placed it aside. Then she took his hand. You can stay, she said. Renzo looked down at their joined fingers. Until morning? Maya smiled. Longer. Something vulnerable moved across his face. He lifted her hand to his lips but stopped before touching it. May I? Yes. He kissed her knuckles. Maya reached up and pulled him toward her. Their kiss reflected in the rain-covered windows while Tokyo burned in neon around them. Outside, Renzo Santoro's men stared carefully in every direction except toward the store, pretending not to witness the impossible. The most feared man in the city had not conquered Maya Collins. He had not rescued her from weakness, or transformed her into someone worthy of his world. She had always been worthy. She had simply become the one person strong enough to make him understand that love was not a cage built from protection. It was a door. And for the first time in his life, Renzo had learned how to knock.